Meanwhile, the National Assembly's proposal on Monday to move the 2027 presidential and governorship elections to November 2026 is causing no little stir in political circles. The proposal was unveiled during a public hearing in Abuja by the Senate and House of Committees on Electoral Matters. The Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2025 seeks to hold elections no later than 185 days before the expiration of the tenure of incumbent presidents and governors. It also aims to shorten election petition timelines, reducing tribunal judgments from 180 to 90 days and appellate court decisions from 90 to 60 days to ensure faster resolution of disputes. Joining us now for more details is Evans Ufeli. He's a constitutional lawyer and advocate of political reform, and he joins us from Lagos. Evans, good to have you on the news this evening. Now, do you think the proposed timeline for elections will improve the overall electoral process in Nigeria? And how will it affect the Independent National Electoral Commission's preparations?
Well, I think it's a good idea, but it's quite sudden. It's very sudden, because if you are going to have such kind of arrangement, you should have started the preparation immediately after the 2023 elections. Because now what they are saying in effect is that you want a situation where you can have a period of 185 days before the next election. If you propose that the election have to start in November 2026, what they are saying invariably is that the political parties themselves will need to start to conduct their primaries now, or in January, or in February. That's what they are saying. You understand? Because the internal issues of the parties have to be resolved before we talk about the general elections. And is it not too sudden in the day to introducing this at this time of the year, when this is already half-mark this dispensation? Okay? So as much as I believe that we need up to 6 months, okay, before we get into a new dispensation, as the National Assembly have argued that they want all matters dispensed with, all pre-election matters and the rest of that dispensed with before swearing in. That is a good idea. But one thing they are not telling us, one thing very critical they are not telling us, is that if you have that dispensed with, what then happens to the judicial system that we have not even agreed on the issue of how to come about electoral offenders? 1, 2, we have not expanded our courts enough, because all the judges that will be taken or be invested to go and address these issues, we have to abandon all cases they are handling. The way we do, the way we come about laws in this country, we focus on one side to amend one side. And when we amend that side, we now discover the other problem at the other side. And then it becomes difficult. The National Assembly is arguing that now the 180 days within which it takes to determine an election matter should be reduced to 90 days. Okay, and the appeal, okay, be reduced, to 60 days. Then by the time you put both together, you now have 185 days. That 185 days should be enough within which to dispense with all cases that will come in between. And when you look at it properly, we're still going to run into further hitches, because as we're expanding the Electoral Act and fine-tuning it, we're not fine-tuning the legislature. We're not fine-tuning the judiciary, which is part of the process. Okay? Today is the court that determines the mandate. So how much have we taken? Because there's a bill in that same National Assembly that was, proposed for the creation of special courts. Now, okay.
Yeah, I don't want you to go too far, Evans, because as we're talking about logistics, I want us to talk about, the preparedness of INEC as well. Wouldn't it be such a short window for them to prepare for the elections as well, when it comes to vetting candidates and overseeing, the primaries ahead of the elections as well?
That is exactly what I'm saying, because the same Electoral Act says that all political parties must nominate their candidates and send to INEC 90 days before elections. And so if we agree that if we agree that we are going to have, it's going to affect INEC, because if we agree that we're going to have this election 6 months before we get into the next dispensation in November 2026, what it means that political parties will be having their primaries now, as we speak now, or next month.
Very quickly.
So that they can have a 90 days window within which to submit the names of their respective candidates.
Now, there's also the proposed reduction in election petition timelines. Do you believe the judiciary will be able to handle the increased workload and deliver justice within the shortened time frame, as well as do their due diligence in looking at all evidence and every materials presented to back up claims?
Yes, that's exactly my argument. My argument also is that when you look at the time, already the 180 days is always very difficult for the court to even come to a decision within 180 days. Okay? Because of the level of workload involved. Now you are reducing it to 60 days. You are proposing for a reduction to 60 days. That will eat into the time of the legislature and choke them, and the judiciary rather, and choke them in the process. Okay? And then by the time you do that, you leave it off for another phase where you now have to contend with how can this whole thing, 185 days, be put in for a dispensation that used to have 180 days. And 180 days used to be for the court of first instance. You now have another 60 days for appeal. Okay, before now. But today you are cutting everything down to 185 days for both the court of first instance and the appeal and everything. So how is that going to work? That's the question. It's not enough to just propose. Is it practicable? Is it workable? You understand? The almost every person defeated is going to the court.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And by the time everybody gets to court, the court's not able to resolve them within record time because the cases are much.
Right. And how do you think this proposal will affect the political landscape in general, particularly, for opposition parties and even smaller political parties as well, that often face challenges in accessing electoral reforms electoral resources?
Most political parties are not ready for this. We just concluded election 2023. Most political parties are not ready for this whole rush and haste and proposal for amendment and the rest of that. Many of them are not ready for it because first it's too solid, that's what I'm saying. It can be resolved for the next election. Maybe the amendment can be made now, but it should take effect from the next election after 2026. That's what I think, because it's going to affect not just INEC, it will affect the judiciary, it will affect the political party. Because if they finally pass it into law and the president signs it, it means that political parties should start to conduct their primaries the next day. For them to present the names of their candidate 90 days before election, or are they going to also reduce the number of days it will take for them to put up the names of their candidate to INEC? Are they going to reduce to 3 months? It's not part of the proposal. So anywhere you amend in this whole thing affects the other part. It's a good idea. I think they are trying to fine-tune it for us to have 6 months before the next dispensation. But that 6 months, we have to manage it proper. We have to look at what it takes for each institution to deliver on record time before you can come up with the right framework for which this can work. All right. Otherwise, we're just going to be. And the another thing is, once the National Assembly passes this and the president signs it, the government of the day, they will stop governance and everybody will now focus on politics. From November, from the time they are conducting primaries to the time the election will be dispensed with and the time the result will be pronounced and after the court, everything will be about politics. It will no longer be about governance. And we're just coming out from the same politics, not just 2 years away. So at the end of the day, it's like we are preoccupied with politics, we have no governance. And then the economy suffers for that. We have to take a panoramic view of this. Look at the economic implication, look at the political implication, the stability of the country, and in general, the welfare of citizens vis-a-vis the general issues that will be the outcome of this process.
All right. Evans, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us. Evans Ufeli, the legal practitioner.